In the book of Nicodemus, or also called the Acts of Pilate, um, it is said that Christ, during his death on this earth, when he was dead for 3 days, he was actually very busy in hell, because after his death, when he went to hell, he was actually conquering and opening the gates of hell, conquering Hades and Satan, because Satan and Hades were both in hell. And this testimony has been given in the book of Nicodemus. So you can find the detailed accounts of this most important knowledge of Christ overcoming death has been detailed in the book of Nicodemus. So after Christ had died on the surface on earth and went to hell, he demanded Hades to open the gates of hell and started to free all the saints and prophets of our Father that was trapped and waiting in hell. So Christ came in and started to lift everyone and take him up to heaven, and including David, Adam, and many other prophets from the Bible and the scriptures were waiting in hell. So Christ started to free every one of them. So according to the book of Adam, Father had promised Adam that he would be free from his sin in the year 5500, which means Christ came at 5500 and freed Adam from hell. In the 7,000-year timeline given to humanity according to our Creator, which has been fabricated by Satan, that humans were born billions of years ago or something, because Satan fabricates time. So the timeline given to humanity by God is 7,000 years. And Adam was promised to be free from his sin around 5,500 years. And looks like Christ came to earth according to that prophecy given to Adam. Christ came to earth in his first coming in the 5,500 year, because that's when Christ died, went to hell, retrieved Adam and the other saints, and brought him to heaven. In the other scriptures, it is written that Satan is known to fabricate time. He is known to fabricate history, or mix up the various timelines of history of what happened when, and give out false and wrong information to confuse the public about our real orientation of where we are in time and how we are progressing through our spiritual creation timeline given according to Father, which we have completely and totally lost, because everything has been fabricated, like the years and the months, and all the dates that has been invented, and the histories that has been twisted and turned. So everything is a huge mess, and Satan has totally fabricated our timeline, and collectively we do not even know where we stand. Satan fabricates time in the hopes that he can make things go his way. And that's the level of delusion that Satan is personally dealing with, that he cannot perceive Father's perfect creation plan for humanity. And it is not a creation plan for Satan, but a creation plan for humanity and for eternity and for holiness, and not for filth and satanic, demonic realities don't exist on their own, because they have no self-existing capacity that are dependent on holy people. So Satan is in total delusion, thinking that he can twist and turn time and manipulate things and make things go his ways, which is totally wrong and completely deluded. And when Satan is dealing with this level of delusion, we are at the receiving end of his delusion that he will manipulate prophets or try and make us commit sins or contaminate us or fabricate our stories through his own creation so that we may not be able to perform our missions. So, say, for example, if a very important chosen prophet or father cannot perform their mission, that might affect the timeline, which Satan hopes. So he tries to contaminate and fabricate our lives and makes our spiritual journey extremely difficult so that we may totally give up and give up our missions and affect the timeline, and everything goes according to his ways. And this is the hopes and dreams of deluded Satan that we have to deal with. Christ that overcame death is the most important mission of Christ's first coming. And this information has not been given to mainstream Christianity or to the world, that our Savior had completely overcome death, and the exact process of how he had overcome it is written in the Acts of Pilate or the book of Nicodemus, but this information has not been given in the Bible. But the detailed accounts of how he overcame death, how Christ overcame death, is written but except not shared, because it gives the truth of Satan and his delusion. You will get to read and understand when you read the book of Nicodemus. When Satan doesn't allow us to fully understand the spiritual works of our Father in heaven and our Christ that came down here and performed his spiritual mission of going to hell and overcoming death and hell, when these details are hidden and we are not given all the detailed information and only fed fantasy and only fed like sentences and verses and not given the entire detail of actually how the process of overcoming death has taken place. So it programs us into this fantasy reality, just like Christmas, and we cannot really grasp the spiritual concepts of heaven and hell, and we miss out on the dynamics, and we miss out on this beautiful, great spiritual journey, and we are stuck with Christmas and Satan's Santa. So when the general population is so held down and not given the true accounts of the spiritual information of what Christ did or what our Father is doing, and we have no appropriate grasp of the actual spiritual world that we live in, and this hardcore work such as death and suffering that Christ went through that hasn't been taught to us properly, and we haven't been accustomed properly into his work and only fed fantasy and sentences and lines, it makes it really difficult for us prophets to relay our work, because the population is programmed just into only fantasy version of Christ's work and not his real work. So it will be hard for us to relay our work in the same manner. So when we start doing our work and start giving testimony for our works about this great telepathic reality that has engulfed this reality, and every human brain is hooked into this telepathic interface, this demonic telepathy, whether it's technological or organic. So when we are trying to uncover this veil and give this information, relay this information to the general public, it's not believable for them, because they have hardly grasped the first layer, which is what Christ did after his death. He went to hell and overcame Satan and Hades, and he gained the keys of hell. So when people are not taught at this level, it will be very difficult for them to gain the next layer. Due to the fantasy religious program that are not allowed to believe Christ's death and resurrection, or that Christ had gone to hell and retrieved Adam and all the saints. So people are not allowed to believe in these actual religious, actual spiritual events that took place within our spiritual journey as human beings. Humans are not allowed to believe this information and kept at a very low spiritual level, given only the superficial religious concepts to the general public by Satan. So for this reason, Father has designed the mark of the beast that will test people spiritually via the everyday material reality, because the mark of the beast will take complete ownership of everything you need to buy with money, including food. So your spiritual test will come at a material level. What Christ went through spiritually, and what the many prophets went through spiritually, and what many prophets are going through spiritually now, and many are giving testimony for various different extremely unbelievable fantasy type scenario situations that we are giving spiritual testimony for. The humans that don't believe this will not simply get away with the spiritual layer of reality and existence, and their test will come within the material world of food, shelter, clothing, water, which is everything that you purchase and buy with money that gives you security, survival, and sustenance, will be tested via the mark of the beast. And that is the reason why the mark of the beast of buying and selling was created, because the general public cannot perceive higher spirituality and they will be tested in the lower.